The defense that Matt Shaw has shown, what has stood out to you about the way that he's progressed in the last month defensively?
Yeah, I was just talking to Carter about it, watching him take ground balls here. What a remarkable transformation, making the routine play, making the great play like last night in the ninth inning. Give him credit for just gaining confidence, working hard, and it's a far cry from what I think we saw in spring training and in Japan, where I feel like there was some uncertainty. Now he's playing with a lot of confidence, and given the rest of our infield defense, it makes us that much better.
That play last night, obviously, we can all look at it and be like, wow, but what for you specifically stood out?
The confidence to do it in the ninth inning, I think that was the biggest thing. He's made some really tough plays with his glove. Obviously, that was a bare hand throw, bare hand play, and then obviously the arm strength. I think that to me, he early in the season, I feel like he was trying to figure out his arm stroke a little bit, and now he's letting it go, making good throws, and like I said, he's playing third base with confidence.
How much of that is experience, reps, and how much of it is just kind of his work ethic, tackling the specific things that he was tasked with?
I think it's all of it. Obviously, he put the work in, but I do think when he went down to Iowa, I think something clicked from a confidence, just feeling like he belongs standpoint. I think you see it at the plate. Just his posture at the plate is so much better, his confidence, and obviously in the field. I mean, I think that's what happens. I think that being in the big leagues for the first time, especially early this season, we're in Japan. We had a tough schedule early. I think it's understandable that it was really challenging, but give him credit for going down, gaining that confidence, and coming back really a different player on this team.
Where would you say you are as far as the process of trade deadline, engaging other teams? What's that process right now? Where are you with it?
I think we're in the information gathering process still. I think, as I've said a number of times, there's still very few teams that I think would be fully categorized as sellers. I think that for the most part right now, it's the teams that have struggled still think they can kind of get back in the race, other than a handful, and so we're not quite there yet. But in the information gathering stage, obviously checking in, monitoring everything, but we're not there yet as far as the teams that may have had aspirations of being better. I don't think those teams are in a place yet where they're making those decisions.
Your rotation depth has held to this point, but it has thinned a little bit. Is that an area you really want to target for the next?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I think these guys have done a really good job in the absence of Steele and Shota and Assad, and Wicks has been banged up, so we've definitely, Birdsell, we've definitely taken a lot of hits there, and these guys have held up well, but it's a long season. We're not even halfway through yet, so we have to continue to address that in all sorts of ways, whether it's trade deadlines, small transactions, and hopefully get some of these guys healthy.
For you, what's the feeling like where it's mid-June and, I mean, I guess barring some crazy stuff happening in these next couple weeks, you have a lot more clarity of what you want to be doing and the direction you guys will be going at the trade deadline compared to the last couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously we've played really well. Our position playing group has just been outstanding, both offensively and defensively, and I think that gives some clarity. Obviously you don't know what's going to happen over the next month and a half with that group, but I think that right now the focus would be on adding pitching and adding pitching depth. I think that would be the clear thing, and maybe there's an upgrade. Whether it's on the bench, whether it's some complementary piece, but I think that this group, I think, is a really good group, and like I said, it's not just on offense; it's on defense as well.
You mentioned the smaller transactions. What have you thought of kind of how the additions to the bullpen along the way here have kind of helped them stabilize?
They've been good. I mean, I think that the guys we've brought in have really helped, like you said, stabilize. And I think some guys have gotten better as years gone. I mean, Presley's clearly throwing better. I think that's made a big difference. We've weathered not having Porter pretty well, but there's no finish line on the bullpen, and we got to keep doing those things over and over. That there's going to be injuries, there's going to be guys that struggle, and you're going to need that kind of depth. So, very complimentary, obviously, of how those guys have pitched, but we just have to continue to look for the next group, because it's how baseball's played now.
Do you expect with the bullpen for it to continue to be smaller moves with all the developments that have happened? It's been so after the first 3 weeks, people probably said you have to have a nail down reliever. Does it feel differently now?
don't think I can answer that on whatever today is, June 11th or whatever. I think that's something for closer to the 31st. And I do think in general, I think that it used to be that you had some more transactions in the tank in August and September, and now you don't. So you have to think about that aspect of it. Like, we have to play 2 months without those transactions, and I think that's really important.
You mentioned Presley. What did you think, as a veteran guy, kind of how he handled that really tough outing and how he's handled the weeks since then?
Really well. I think he's continued to work hard with our pitching guys, and I think we've seen, I think he's getting more swing and miss. I think that, obviously early in the season he wasn't getting that swing and miss. He was, getting balls in play, but he's been able to, the other night I thought that was his best outing of the year on Monday night when he punched out Schwarber and punched out Bohm, and I think that's what, that's the Ryan Presley we're used to seeing, and I think he keeps getting better, which is fantastic.
Is it fair to say that how good the offense is playing, how good the position player group is playing defensively, that it makes a lot of sense to be pretty aggressive at this deadline? You kind of have this is you don't want to waste an opportunity, I guess.
Listen, again, it's really early, and, we talk about trades this early, but the truth is these things are going to probably all happen, like, between the draft and the deadline, so we have to continue to play well, and I think that's the most important thing. We keep playing well, but yeah, like I said, the position playing group has been really fun to watch in all facets of the game, and hopefully that continues.
Brad Keller, obviously a big piece for you guys out in the bullpen. When you were wanting to sign him this offseason, what were the things that really had jumped out to you of a guy, like to make him a guy that you went after? Yeah, well, he had a relationship with Tyler Zombro, and he recommended him, strongly, like in a conversion type role, and it's been really really impressive. This really from day one of spring training. The velocity of the command in the bullpen. I think that when you take a guy who's been a starting pitcher for a long time and put him in the bullpen, he kind of pitches like a starter. He fills his zone, and it's kind of 3 miles an hour harder or so than he was pitching in the rotation. So it's been super impressive. Just coming in attacking guys. I think that's the thing that. From my perspective, the ball's in the zone, and he's coming right at you, and it's been a super impressive run for him. Being here in Philly, do you ever reflect on the trade you made to get Ben Brown?
Yeah, I reflect on that, and I also watch Kyle Schwarber, and so you got to take the good and the bad, that was. Listen, they were a really good team that year, and they needed bullpen help, and. Obviously David helped take them to the World Series. So I think from their standpoint, it was a success. And obviously for us, we got a good young pitcher that's continuing to get better. So I feel like you have to take advantage of those seasons when you're not in the race. And I think my years blend a little bit, but I think that year we traded Efros and got Wesneski, and we traded David and got Ben Brown. And I think that the year before we traded Chafin to get Palencia, and I think trying to use those bullpen pieces to get future pieces is really important.
Who was it in your group that identified Brown?
Andrew Bassett was running pro scouting, and he did a good job identifying him. But he was 6'6" with a big arm, and he was performing, so he was definitely a clear guy to go after, and a guy they didn't want to give up, to be candid, but they saw an opening and they did it.
There's been so much talk about him needing a third pitch, and obviously we've seen a changeup come into play this year. Just what have you thought about the way that he's utilized that, and what do you make of what you've seen from him?
Yeah, I think both he and Cade have done a really good job of, they're both guys that was the question is the third pitch, and I think they both really committed to throwing it in the big leagues, and Ben's been throwing it more often. It's a good pitch. He's just got to get comfortable throwing it, and I think he's done a really good job of showing that conviction in a pitch that he's still kind of learning.
With younger pitchers, maybe we'll talk about it, but just maybe some inconsistencies, like where you see flashes of why they're really good, and then maybe some innings not so great. Like, how do you evaluate that? And with both Cade and Ben, and kind of like the way that they develop at the big league level?
I think it's not just Cade and Ben. I think it's Matt Shaw, it's Pete. I think with all these guys, you have to have young players coming up and contributing. You can't be a good team without it, but you're not they're not going to be the most consistent performances, and obviously those guys have had to step up for us this year in big roles. But you have to expect some inconsistency. If you want that true consistency, you're looking at more veteran guys, and at some point that's cost prohibitive. So that's just the challenge of building a roster where you're going to have some ups and downs, but you also see the flashes of brilliance at times. You look at some of the starts that Ben's had, whether it was a home coming out of the bullpen in that game, or whether against Cincinnati, or whether it was in Dodger Stadium. I mean, the dominant version of him is really good, and hopefully that just starts showing up a little bit more and a little bit more each time.